Hey guys, James again with TFB TV. I hope you're not sick and tired of my top 5 lists that involve concealed carry pistols or some variation thereof. You guys know this is what I do in my off time. I'm a concealed weapons instructor. I love single stack guns, double stack subcompacts, and I will make these lists until you guys stop watching them. So today I am doing the top 5 single stack 9mm, and fingers crossed you guys are going to like this list. So let's start with number 5, the Ruger LC9S.
This is the LC9. We've had these available for a number of years. The S is the striker version. We just brought this out earlier this year. So in the striker version, it's the same gun, fits the same accessories, uses the same magazines, but it has a short, crisp 5.5-pound trigger. This has 3-dot windage adjustable sights, a manual safety, and magazine disconnect. It's also available in a Pro version without the magazine safety and without the manual external safety.
The S is very important. This is the striker fired model. I would not put the LC9 on a top 5 single stack gun list just because the double action trigger is long, it's heavy, it's god awful. But the LC9S is striker fired, and this is Ruger listening to the consumer who wants a shorter, more crisp trigger, and they delivered. It's a 7+1 gun. It's only 0.9 inches thick, and it weighs 17.2 ounces. Those are some pretty good specs for a single stack 9mm, and those of you who don't know already, I keep a running spreadsheet of the dimensions and weight and a bunch of calculations. I've got videos and spreadsheets on that. I'll put the links in the description so you can see what I'm talking about, but I've done all the math on these guns to the point of madness. It's ridiculous. Fit and finish is great on this gun. It's reliable. Ruger offers it in a whole smattering of variations. They've got them with fiber optic sights, night sights. I think they even have them in like pink camo. I'm dead serious. From the factory, Ruger always has an excellent lifetime warranty on their products. The ergonomics are excellent on this gun, and the trigger is a marked improvement over the regular LC9. And another important advantage of the LC9S, it's one of the only 2 guns on this list that comes in at under $300. So not only is it functional, not only is it ergonomic, but it's pretty damn cheap. Now, what puts the LC9 at number 5 in this list compared to the other 4 guns that are coming up? The LC9 is the only one that doesn't have a special treatment on the slide. It's just a blued slide. And that's a big deal for guys like us that live in the South that might sweat on their guns, or if you're carrying it a lot, you're gonna get sweat on it, or you're gonna be around salt water at the beach, whatever, and bluing just doesn't hold up. So all the rest of the guns on the list will have specialized treatments that actually aren't coatings, but they impregnate the metal and are far superior to what the LC9S has. But LC9S, good enough for number 5. Now, you guys that watch regularly know that I use number 4 as kind of my controversial pick, and this time it's going to be the Car CM9. Now, what is the Car CM9? The CM9 is like the economy line version of the Car PM9. It's a polymer framed single stack 9mm that incredibly weighs only 14 ounces, and it holds 6 rounds of 9mm plus 1. Now, why the CM9 over the PM9? Well, the CM9 is as cheap as $250, but it's going to be as reliable as the PM9, as functional as the PM9. In fact, the differences between the PM9 and the CM9 don't justify the $100 to $200 price tag difference. For example, the PM9 has laser engraving on the slide. It has a polygonal barrel instead of a conventionally rifled barrel, which, is that really gonna make a difference for a gun this small? I don't think so. The CM9 has an MIM slide stop. Again, not that big of a deal. But the CM9 may be the smallest and lightest single stack 9mm on the market. As I mentioned, 14 ounces, but it holds 6+1. It's only 4 inches tall. Fit and finish on these guns is outstanding. They're reliable. And for that matter, as far as finishes go, you can get the Car PM9 or CM9 in either stainless steel, or for a few extra bucks, you can get it in DLC coating, the diamond-like carbide coating, which is very corrosion resistant as opposed to the bluing that you find on the Ruger. As far as the downsides of the CM9, there's 2 that I can think of. One, because of how this gun's set up, and how the recoil spring works, it is a very tight gun to operate. So you might find that women or people of smaller stature might have some difficulty with racking the slide. Another issue is the long trigger reset. While the car has actually got a very smooth trigger pull, it has a painfully long reset, which is one of its only downsides. But that said, you can pick up one of these in this market today for almost 250 bucks, and I think that makes it dollar for dollar the best pick on this list. If this were purely based on value, the car would be number one, no question. Now moving on to my number 3 pick. I've said in the past that German handguns I think are generally overrated as concealed carry guns. Now overrated does not of course mean bad, because who would say that H&K makes a bad gun, or that say Walther makes a bad gun? They simply don't. So they're good guns, but they might be a little overrated. Now one that I wouldn't necessarily say is overrated is the Walther PPS M2.
Not bad.
And a lot like when I was talking about the Ruger LC9S, the M2 suffix is very important if you're talking about the Walther PPS, just like with the LC9S, how you really want the striker version over the regular LC9. I've reviewed the PPS M1 and M2, and I think the M2 is just simply a better gun, and I think they're about the same price. The M2 is better than the M1 in almost every way. The gun's more ergonomically designed, it's got a better magazine release, the grip and the frame feel sturdier than the PPS M1, and I know you guys are gonna get pissed off when I say this, but my main gripe about the M1, I had one, I will never own one again, is the fact that if you drop that gun and you dislodge the interchangeable back straps on the M1, you're out of luck, you can't even fire the gun. I thought that was a fatal flaw in the PPS M1, and I would never consider it for carry. But I've reviewed the M2, and it's an accurate gun. The trigger's excellent. You're talking about a 6-pound trigger that's very crisp, very short travel, only 0.2 of an inch. I was very impressed with the PPS M2, and right now they're more affordable than ever. You're typically going to find these priced somewhere in between the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield and the Glock 43. And another huge plus for the M2, Tenifer coated slide. Just like the Glock, it is, in my opinion, one of the best coatings out there, impregnates the metal, almost completely rust proof, and I love it. Now, if there's any downside to the PPS M2, again, the charts I was referring to earlier, if you look at it, the PPS M2 is a little bit bigger and heavier than its competition, but that won't bother some people. The PPS M2 is almost 5 inches tall and it weighs 21 ounces. To put it into context, the PPS M2 is almost an inch taller than the Car PM9 or CM9. It's 1/10 of an inch thicker, which is substantial when you're talking about a single stack 9mm, and it is 50% heavier, which is crazy. The Car CM9 PM9, you're talking about 14 ounces. With the PPS M2, you're talking 21 ounces. So it's a little bit larger, but that won't deter a lot of people, and it's still, for all intents and purposes, a fantastic carry gun, and that's why it's number 3. All right, moving on to number 2. This was a toss-up, guys. This was a really difficult decision for me. I own both these guns. I think they're both fantastic. I have nothing negative to say about either of them, but I had to pick one over the other. So I'm going to tell you in advance, my number 1 is based solely on my personal preference, because I have nothing bad to say about the number 2 pick, which is the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield. So what's good about the Shield? Well, what's not good about the Shield? It's small, it's light, it's got excellent capacity. You have the Melanite, Smith & Wesson Melanite finish. The sights are some of the best in the category, with the low profile, no snag, no vac style front and rear sights. There are a ton of accessories available already for the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield, and it is also one of the least expensive guns on the market. You can pick this gun up for around 300 bucks, which makes it $100 to $150 less expensive than the Glock 43. It's got very aggressive slide serrations, which I love and I think is critical for a concealed carry gun. And let's look at the stats. This one is going to be a little bit larger because at base with a flush fit magazine, it's a 7+1, but it still weighs slightly less than the PPS M2, but you're getting an additional round. And that's just one of the reasons why I think the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield is just a better option than the Walther PPS M2. You also have better parts availability, aftermarket support. It's less expensive, it's lighter, and it holds an additional round. So in my opinion, it's not even a close call. The M&P absolutely smokes the PPS M2. And you also have the option to get it with or without a thumb safety, and that's important to some people. Some of the other guns on this list, for example the car, that's simply not an option. So for all those reasons, that's why I believe the Smith & Wesson Shield simply outclasses every other gun on this list at numbers 3, 4, and 5. They just don't do it as well as the Shield can. So what's the best single stack concealed carry gun you can buy, and why is it a Glock 43? I can already hear you guys griping about it. James, the Glock fanboy. Maybe I am a little bit, but that said, I also have to be consistent because I said that this was on my top 5 concealed carry guns, all concealed carry guns. I said this was the #1, so I certainly couldn't back off that now, could I? But I have no reason to. Glock has proven itself. Glocks are reliable, Glocks are durable, the aftermarket support is incredible, the Tenifer finish is possibly one of the best, if not the best coatings available on the market today. And the Glock 43, they did a good job scaling it down. Sure, it took them for a while to get this gun to market, too long in my opinion, and at $450, I think it's the most expensive gun on this list when all the other guns perform about as well, and I would say that the M&P 9 Shield performs as well as the Glock. But I just like the Glock because I have other Glocks. This is a gun that's familiar to me. Because I own a Glock 17 and a Glock 26 and several Glock 19s, I can go to the Glock 43 and I'm familiar with the manual of arms, I'm familiar with the smushy, mediocre trigger, and the internals bear a striking resemblance from the 43 to the other models that I'm familiar with. So I said it before and I'll say it again, this is personal preference for me, guys. I'm not going to be upset if you like any of these other guns on this list or if you disagree with me, but I think I've got some pretty damn good reasons to like the Glock 43, whereas you might have some pretty good reasons to not like it. The specs are pretty respectable. You're looking at a 4¼ inch tall gun that only weighs 17.95 ounces, so it's actually a full quarter pound heavier than the CM9 PM9 and about a ¼ inch taller, but they're about the same width. And in my opinion, the Glock's going to be more reliable and have a more durable finish than the car, and it's also going to be easier to manipulate the slide on the Glock versus the car, which is a really, really tight gun. Guys, by any measure, the Glock 43 is a great concealed carry option. Again, there are good counter arguments why this gun shouldn't be #1, but I gave you my arguments, my personal preference. If you're familiar with Glocks, if you own Glocks, then it just makes sense to have the Glock 43. You're not sacrificing a lot. I think maybe it's a little bit more expensive than it ought to be. And have you seen the new colorways for the Glocks? Look at it, it's stunning. You can get them now in OD green, flat dark earth, gray slides, or just regular ass black, whatever you want. They've got it in your colorway now, and I'm really excited that they're doing that, and I hope they make that a regular thing. So guys, that's my list. I know you Springfield XD guys are gonna be so upset at me, but I cannot put the Springfield XD, I think it's a great gun, but I cannot put a Springfield XD on my list until they get rid of that damn grip zone, the stupid grip zone text. Maybe next time.
Hey, but before I let you guys go, I wanted you to see what the Patreon supporters picked. This is some of the fun and games that we have over on Patreon, so head to the page after the video. But we did like a little tournament between the single stack 9mm in advance of this video, and you can see it was really fun. We started out the first wildcard round with the P7 against the Makarov, and the P7 kicked the Mac's ass, and then you had the SIG 938 curb stomping Springfield Armory EMP. The semifinal had the M&P and the LC9S. The LC9S got absolutely destroyed. The same with the Glock 43 versus the car CM9 PM9. Glock absolutely destroyed the car Right now, there's a couple days of voting left, but it is the Glock 43 versus the Smith & Wesson M&P 9 Shield, and I'll tell you this, guys, the Glock is not looking so good. It's getting its ass kicked by the Shield. So Glock fans, get on a Patreon, go check it out now. Give your Glock brethren a hand.
So thank you to our sponsors, Proxibid, and guys, if you need to feed your single stack 9, head over to Ventura Munitions. They've got a great selection of not only range ammo, house rolled stuff that they make themselves, but they also have great self-defense, hollow points, plus P. So check them out, please. They support us, and anything you can do for them helps us out too. So I want to say thank you to our Patreon supporters, subscribers, viewers. Love all you guys, and I will see you next week.